With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
From Rockingham, North Carolina last week to Darlington, South Carolina this week. I'm feeling a little bit like James Taylor because I've got Carolina on my mind. Our championship leader is currently loving how sweet it is to be Matthew Long, but the usual suspects Abner Acosta and Richard Regan Jr. have been through fire and rain trying to stick with him in second place. YS Motorsports have come so close over the past couple of races as well, maybe they're ready to say that this is our town. Welcome to round 4 of the PRL NASCAR Cup Series in 2023, live from the virtual Darlington Raceway. Hi everybody, Joey Tebbin here alongside Terry Radford up on the roof with our producer Hugo Luis behind the scenes. We're back at Darlington, Terry. We were here on Wednesday night with the PRL NASCAR Truck Series. We're back with the big leagues in the Cup Series. It's only going to get more difficult.
Well, if you could ask for a racetrack that's going to wake us up from mainly overnight stints in the 24, which the PRL actually had a group of winners, which was super cool to see. But yeah, the Lady in Black saw it in that Truck Series. It wasn't as messy as we thought it would be. I would expect that we're not going to see a messy show over here with the Cup Series guys either. A lot of fast times all the way down to the 15th or 14th spot. 0.4 of a second separates them.
Very close quarters as we usually expect here in the PRL NASCAR Cup Series. It is the Dirty South Racing duo of Taylor Stout and Matthew Long who currently top the timesheets in practice, and they were basically the two dominant cars last week at Rockingham. And we can take a look at the championship results after Rockingham, and it's no surprise that it is who else but Matthew Long leading the championship standings after winning the last 2 races in a row at Rockingham and in week 2 as well. He currently leads the point standings over Abner Acosta, who's now in second. But here is the rest of the schedule before we can get into the rest of that. Atlanta coming up next week in our little sequence of legacy tracks. Rockingham and Darlington, not necessarily legacy tracks, but they are very, very old classic tracks. So they fit into that little finagle there. Iowa Speedway coming up after that. The one road course of the Cup Series season at the Daytona Road Course coming up in a couple of weeks' time. Then we start to match up with the real-life NASCAR Cup Series schedule, Daytona, Auto Club, and Las Vegas to finish out the season with those 3 races. But as I mentioned, Matthew Long has been the dominant force in the first 3 rounds of the season. He leads the championship by 13 points over defending playoff champion Abner Acosta. James O'Brien has had a great season so far, top 5 in every race so far. He sits 3rd. Josh Daniels and Waldo Walden bring us down to 5th place. Richard Regan Jr. has had a struggle of a start to the season. He's in 6th. And then Pat Harvey, Chris Hudson, Jay McDonald, and Richard Pruitt round out the top 10. Notice that your defending champion, Trent Dinkle, nowhere to be seen in the top 10. He has had a hellish start to this season. He needs to get things going. Dirty South Racing with Stout and Long and Richard Regan Jr. lead the team's championship by 1 singular point over private label Team Hype, who, as I mentioned, have had quite a bit of bad luck to kick off the season. Love Racing within touching distance as well in 3rd. SGE Esports They supply 4th and 5th in the standings with Pioneer and Overdrive. YS Motorsports lower than you would think with how competitive they've been with Byron Johnson, with Joe Hoggard. Lots of drivers competing for wins, competing for high positions, just haven't been able to seal the deal. The third SGE Esports squad sits between the two YS Motorsports squads. The second private label team, Hype Team, Team Black, sits 9th, and Car Ramrod with Charles Sumner and Adam Zemke. They need to get some more points on the table as well in 3rd. Qualifying about to get underway here at Darlington, but before we can start tracking our drivers' performance, we have to thank everybody who makes all of this possible. This coverage, first and foremost, is brought to you by the VCO, the virtual competition organization, helping us out here at RaceSpotTV and helping make every single Precision Racing League broadcast possible this season and every season. This coverage is also brought to you by Advanced Sim Racing. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision5 coupon code. This coverage is brought to you by Racebox Sim Racing. Racebox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Sorry for that, slight technical difficulties there, but Mechasim Hardware is a small company from the Czech Republic, and their goal is to produce high-quality sim racing hardware. If you're looking for a high-end pedal set, handbrake, or sequential shifter, visit Mechasim Hardware's eShop right now to get you up to speed and check them out. And last but not least, this coverage is brought to you by NinjaTrader. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Of course you are. Sporting over 60,000 users across the globe, NinjaTrader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit ninjatrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance. And as always, it's time to start tracking the performance of our PRL NASCAR Cup Series drivers. Looks pretty similar to the way it did in practice. Matthew Long, rather, at the top of the timesheets over Pat Harvey, over Taylor Stout. Brett Punkari currently sits 4th. It's Johnson and Johnson 5th and 6th. Richard Regan Jr., Trent Dinkle, Campbell, and Lou Christian. Top 10 for the moment, but it's early days, still 3 minutes to go. We're starting to see some of the big hitters flow in.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too surprised that the second lap might be a little faster for some of these drivers. With the 66, it was really, really fast as the 67 jumps up Pat Harvey up to the top, and then Richard Regan Jr. comes in. Wow. Regan Jr. Put down a 29.0 there. That was a really good time. The only 2 so far in the O's. Everybody else is in 29.1s.
Josh Daniels rounding turns 3 and 4. New sponsor on the hood of that car with I believe that's Dirt Devil. I can't read it from this far away. Yes, it is. It is Dirt Devil. He crosses the line. 29.433 for Josh Daniels. Disappointing first lap time for him. He's going to be looking for some more lap time on lap number 2. Robert Besaw Jr. here had some bad luck at Rockingham last week. Out early after getting into the wall. Almost gets into the wall off of turn 4. He's going to come to the line with definitely not a representative lap time, over 30 seconds. He's going to have to wait for another shot.
Yeah, first lap he looked like he was just not doing it. He didn't do a very good job of getting off the exit of 4. Just seemed to couldn't find any type of speed there. We'll see what he does here in 3 and 4 this time. He'll hold it low, go to the bottom, sweep it back to the wall, and come across that line. He slides in. 8. Good lap.
Solid lap for Robert Besaw Jr. Very disappointing qualifying, I have to mention, for Abner Acosta. Currently sits P14. That is not where Abner Acosta wants to be. He was pretty quick in practice, wasn't all the way at the top of the timesheets. Dirty South Racing really had a monopoly up there, but Abner Acosta 14th for the moment. Johan Seminario had a good qualifying last week at Rockingham, and just like Brett Punkari, representing a manufacturer who isn't actually in the NASCAR Cup Series, but he's having a little bit of fun with the front fascia of this next-gen car. We've got a Dodge Charger.
It is a nice Charger. It's interesting to see the little bit that we're able to play around with here with the Ford Mustang converted. Comes across the line here. That should slot him 18th. Ooh. Let's see what the second lap does. Bad P13 on there, second lap with a 29.374. That should do it there for qualifying. Only 22 cars at a time.
Only 22 cars in a much bigger field than that. I believe 32 drivers signed up at the time of the session's launch. There were a few drivers who were disallowed from qualifying. We'll get into them a little bit later, but we are ready to take you through the grid, and it will be headed by who else but the pole winningest driver in the PRL NASCAR Cup Series history. It's Richard Regan Jr., but only one singular thousandth of a second over Pat Harvey, who pilots the SGE Sports Pioneer entry in second. Matthew Long and James O'Brien make up the second row, and then Taylor Stout and Lou Christian bring us down to row 3. Brett Punkari in the Peugeot alongside Robert Besaw Jr., and then Byron Johnson and Scotty Johnson. It's all Johnson all the time on row 5. Matthew Campbell and Josh Daniels make us row 6, and unlucky 13th ended up going to Johan Seminario at the nick of time at the end of the session. Mike Witt, solid qualifying for him in 14th, ahead of Abner Acosta and Trent Dinkle. That is not where you normally see Abner Acosta and Trent Dinkle, locked on row 8. They both have a lot of work to do once the race rolls around. Then Robert Gamble and Stephen Hassett make up row 9. Brandon Walter and Clayton Ham bring us down to P20. Roy Grande and Tom Amasi were the last two drivers to actually set qualifying lap times. Chris Hudson was disallowed from qualifying after causing a caution last week. Eric Papineau, not disallowed from qualifying, just chose not to qualify. Skip Gandy was disallowed from qualifying after bringing out a caution a couple of weeks ago. Charles Sumner elected not to qualify. Jay McDonald elected not to qualify. Mark Kalin elected not to qualify. Richard Pruitt elected not to qualify. Jordan Slater disallowed from qualifying. And Ken Olland and Aaron Beaver all elected not to qualify. It's an interesting mix, Terry. Darlington isn't necessarily a track where we normally think, maybe you don't need to qualify. Maybe you want to stay out of trouble. It seems like a place where track position's pretty important, and a third of the field has chosen not to take it.
Mark Kalin comments in the chat and said he's going to try to replicate last week with no qualifying. Superstitions, it's a little suspicious minds, the way Elvis say it. But looking at the track temp, 80 degrees Fahrenheit. The track temp is 88 degrees there. Winds 2 miles per hour. It's partly cloudy. It's you're going to have to miss the issues early. But if you're one of the drivers that was disallowed or just decided, hey, I'm not going to qualify, you're going to have a couple drivers that are going to bobble, hit that wall early. You just got to make smart business moves. I'll say it like that. Smart business moves.
Smart business moves. We're coining that. Hashtag SBM. We're bringing in the smart business moves. That won't backfire on us at all. There's definitely not going to be any sort of making fun of people for making not smart business moves. That may or may not happen, but we see from the rear bumper of the iRacing sedan pace car, Richard Regan Jr., very familiar sight on the front row of the grid in the PRL NASCAR Cup Series. This is his 25th pole in PRL NASCAR Cup Series history, and that's just in the Cup Series. He's got a good couple more in the Truck Series, actually about 18 more in the Truck Series, so it is quite the bounty of pole positions for Richard Regan Jr., but he's joined by Pat Harvey, who has been very, very strong in practice, very, very strong in qualifying, and his teammate and championship leader Matthew Long sits behind. But the green flag is in the hands of Barney the Flagman, and for the first time in Darlington in 2023, Richard Regan Jr. leads us to green. lap in the books, clean all throughout. 2 drivers elected to start from the pits, interestingly. Trent Dinkle, who is really trying to turn around his season. He thinks that starting from the pits is the way to go. And Richard Pruitt as well joined him on pit lane. Pat Harvey in trouble coming into turn 3. He's all the way down in the apron. He's pulling off the track entirely. I don't know if he hit the wall and he has a meatball already, but trouble for the driver who started on the outside of the front row. Pat Harvey's down pit road already.
I don't see any damage on that thing. Wonder what he's doing.
Did he jump the start?
Yeah, did he get in trouble? Is it a pass through off the jump? There's no damage on that car, but it's a free spot back there for drivers a little further on back. It helps your track position cause. We'll have to cycle through and maybe follow up on that.
In the session, it is reading. We were hearing from our intrepid whistleblower, Nicholas Hunter, that he did have a black flag. I was watching the start. It didn't seem like Pat Harvey jumped it, but there are these new rules. A couple of updates ago, they did add the restart zones on iRacing. You do have to follow a very specific set of rules. And Pat Harvey, that's the only reasonable explanation I can think. He got to the line, he burst off the line too quick, beat Richard Regan Jr. to the start-finish line. And unfortunately, he's paid the price for it. He's had to do a pass-through. He's 1 lap down already.
Yeah, that puts you at a big disadvantage. It's unlike last night. You don't have 24 hours to make this up. You have 150 laps, so you can attempt to. You're going to have to run them all clean. You can't go behind the 8 ball this early in this small of a race. This is not even the length of what an Xfinity race would be, or even a truck race for that matter. So you have to be able to go out here and run these laps perfect, and you want to make sure the starting position's there. I mean, you look at a lot of our drivers back in the back that did not qualify because they elected not to. They're not necessarily moving through this field like a knife through butter.
Right on board with Chris Hudson here. He's got a hat this week, and always the ever familiar Krispy Kreme colors on the hood. Disallowed from qualifying because he wasn't, or because rather he did bring out a caution at Rockingham last week. He's made a little bit of progress forward. He's made up about 5 spots or so. Next up on his list is Robert Gamble. Hudson peeks to the inside of turn 1. Gamble doesn't appear to want to fight this too hard. Hudson washes up a little bit, and that'll be Chris Hudson up to P16.
I sure do love Krispy Kreme. I'm not going to lie. It makes me hungry just looking at the onboard here. I got one right across the street from me. I just refused to go get donuts. But it sounds... should have went got some yesterday. I can sit here and enjoy a good donut. But early on, you see single file, and drivers really aren't trying to put themselves in a bad position. See, we've really spread out here. In only 8 laps, we're starting to lose 3/4 tenths on these tires this early.
Is this where the tire whisperer suddenly comes into contention? Abner Acosta up 3 spots from the start. One of those was free, I believe, from his teammates starting from the pits, but he has made a couple of moves. He's been inching his way forward from a disappointing 13th on the grid. Still very early days in the stint. Abner Acosta, your defending playoff champion, still sits P11. He has gotten to the back of Matthew Campbell. They're currently fighting over P10, one of the closest battles on the track, but that's kind of fallen apart a little bit as Abner is definitely saving his stuff. We see a little bit further back his teammate Brandon Walter, the other private label Team Hype Black entry, currently attacking Clayton Ham, who's currently attacking about 3 other people in front of him. It's a hornet's nest back here.
Yeah, and you have to be smart when you make these moves. If you see somebody ahead of you make a mistake like you saw right there, jump to the outside, get clear going into the corner, and then set your sights on the car ahead of you. But for the private label Team Hype drivers, all these boys better be happy. Second split went to them in 24. All these PRL guys are on a very good high.
Brett Pancari on a little bit of a low right now. He's fallen back from his starting position, similar to last week at Rockingham. Had some great pace in qualifying, had some great strategy, but unfortunately he's fallen to P9 now. We do have a replay of Pat Harvey's little oopsie at the start line, so we're going to try and take a look at that and diagnose exactly what happened. We think he was a little bit ahead coming to the start line. Here you see it. Pat Harvey definitely is inching ahead there. That is ahead of Richard Regan Jr. That is not allowed. So Pat Harvey getting a little bit overeager. He didn't beat Regan to the line, but he did pass him in the restart zone. That's gotten him a drive-through penalty.
Yeah, that I'm glad the restart zone exists on iRacing because you would get a lot of drivers. As soon as that pace car would leave, that outside could beat you on a regular restart, or they would lay back and they would lag all the way back about 3/4 of the way through. I got beat at Gateway like that because the guy couldn't beat me head-to-head, so he ran up as much speed as possible, and right when I had to go, he was already flying past me. But iRacing was smart and very good about it to put those restart zones in effect, so you can't do moves like that. You're going to lose, based off of speed. You're not going to lose based off of you want to be a butthead.
We're really starting to see the walls start to bite people. Byron Johnson definitely got into the wall off of turn 2, scraped the wall a little bit off of turn 4. Rockingham last week was a very, very difficult race because it is essentially 2 different tracks in turns 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. It's 2 completely different angles and the exits of the corners. The walls seemingly come out at you. Unfortunately for drivers who struggled with that, we are back at Darlington, a place where the walls stick out even more and like to bite even more. Up front, by the way, Richard Regan Jr., your pole sitter, has fallen. Matthew Long went for the move to get by him, and Matthew Long has taken the lead once again.
It was looked like a very easy pass for the race lead as Richard Regan Jr. started to fall back into the clutches of James O'Brien for that third, or he's going to drop him down to third if he gets around him. He talked about the wall. I mean, these cars have such a, I wouldn't say fragile body on them, but they don't enjoy to stay intact if you catch that wall hard enough. You could knock the toe link out. You could tear the rear. You could have a big malfunction where you're going to have to come down pit lane for extensive damage repair. And it's going to put a lot of these guys behind the 8 ball. They're going to have to ride the bottom and attempt to sire save for the duration of this run.
Remember, Pat Harvey is a lap down. He had to serve a pass through on lap 3, but he's getting aggressive, and Richard Regan Jr. gets in the wall through 3 and 4. Pat Harvey passes Richard Regan Jr. Still not going to get his lap back. He has to pass Matthew Long to get back on the lead lap, but Pat Harvey absolutely wants to be back on the lead lap, and he was able to pressure Richard Regan Jr. into a mistake.
If you think about it, if he gets his lap back by going up to pass the leader of this race and a caution comes out, he does not have to start tail end. He will gain whatever position that he would technically be at that moment. So if he gets around the race leader at the moment, Matthew Long, anybody else has issues, he starts in front of them, which would be accurate. But if he gets the wave around and they're right in front of him, then he has a little bit of an issue. There could be some damaged vehicles that sit in the front of him, so he has to then navigate his way through traffic and pit on the second time. There's a lot that's going to go into it to get him up here, to attempt to go up here. But Richard Regan Jr. hit the wall. Yeah. Maybe a little bit of pushing the tires a tad bit too early.
Fans of Roy Grande going to be disappointed. You may have seen a cloud of smoke down the front straight a couple of laps ago. That was Roy Grande. No caution came out because he was down in the apron, but Roy is out of here. He is out of the session with heavy damage, so no more Roy Grande tonight, unfortunately. Richard Pruitt, remember, he started from the pits. He's run into even more trouble as well. He's currently down pit road, getting about a minute of repairs right now. So 2 drivers already biting the dust. Only about 20 laps into this race. Darlington does bite. It bites hard. We've already lost 2 drivers before we've even gotten to lap 20. Byron Johnson, I think, has gotten into the wall for a second time. And you see just at the back of your screen, in the very background there, you saw the Bumblebee yellow entry of Abner Acosta. The tire whisperer is whispering, or rather he's yelling now, and he's moving his way forward. Past Robert Besaw Jr., past Josh Daniels, past Brett Punkari. Byron Johnson and Seminario are next.
Yeah, this is the type of the racetrack that will just kick you in the teeth, just to kick you in the teeth. It does not care who you are. It doesn't care if you're I don't care if you're a PRL champion, if you're a Coke champion, who you are. This is not the racetrack that cares about you. I care about you. So people watching and people driving, I care about you. It's Abner Acosta doing a great job coming through this field. Started back there on row 8, now all the way up to the 7th place position. Turning down some very fast laps as well. Last time by was a 31-1. A little bit slower than the drivers that are in front of him, but he was also driving through traffic.
Making moves, making movies is Abner Acosta, and off of turn 4, Johan Seminario basically gets into the wall. I don't know if he did touch it, but he had a huge moment. He lifts off, says, you know what, there's no point making this any longer than it has to be. I'm going to let Abner Acosta by here and make sure I don't cause even more trouble. Abner Acosta up into P6. He's got a little bit of clean air now. He can do some qualifying laps on his own. He's got 2.5 seconds up to Luke Christian.
That was making a business decision, and he made that business decision really fast. He cuts his part of the wall. No sense in holding somebody up that has clearly caught you from a good chunk back on your end. And if most people had that attitude and that wherewithal to know, hey, this driver has caught me by almost second and a half, and I'm not gonna do. Oh no, is that Picari?
I think that was our friend Roy Grande a couple of laps ago. No, that's Aaron Beaver rather. Is he still down there? No, he has gotten going again, but that was Aaron Beaver getting into trouble in the same place Roy Grande did on the front straight. But again, you're down in the apron at Darlington. The caution will not come out. You can actually see Aaron still recovering down there in the apron, trying to get back to racing speed. Let's see what happened to him.
Kalen.
Wasn't him. He got Mark Kalen.
He got marked. Marky Mark. Took this loose off the corner. That's a 2 was our big issue in the trucks. We couldn't get people to stop wrecking off the exit of 2. So far, it's the exit of 4 that's messing with these next gens.
Mark Kalen lucky to keep it out of the wall there, but I think that's what screwed him over. He tried to stay out of the wall, got in the brakes, and on corner exit, Mark Kalen does tend to struggle sometimes, getting a little bit loose, and Aaron Beaver, the unfortunate bystander there, he is now down pit road. He's going to join the fray of Richard Pruitt, drivers on pit road, getting heavy damage repaired. Hopefully he'll be back out here. We still get points for every position, down to 30th in the PRL as the battle for 15th, or 16th rather, rages on. Brandon Walter versus Stephen Hassett. Hassett as close as you can get to the wall without getting into it. Brandon Walter takes 16th.
Takes a lot of skill to run that wall without touching it. You go all the way up there, try to maximize the speed through the center of the corners. Try to keep your foot mashed in the throttle. Also, while rolling the brake a little bit, letting the car float. Do what you needed to do without putting a whole lot of wheel into it. It takes quite a bit to be able to do all phases of, especially this racetrack. A couple of the racetracks you can get away with maybe overcompensating in one side or undercompensating in the other. You might not be the best on corner entry, but you can make up for it on corner exit. Here, if you screw up corner entry, you screwed up the center, you're probably going to hit the wall, and then you're going to do that on corner exit. Now look at this. We got
Speaking of hitting the
everywhere.
wall, about 4 cars, Hudson, Johnson, Bisa, and Seminario, all battling for the last couple of spots in the top 10. I think every single one of them hit the wall through 3 and 4 there.
They did. That's Darlington racing. Everybody's going to be close to one another. Everybody's going to be attempting to make the pass. And we also saw it in that truck race when they went for the pass for the lead, ends up going in the wall and allowing the Ford truck to get around it and go take that win, just scaring the guy on the outside into a mistake.
Gonna have to start listening to Cool and the gang. Get your back up off the wall. Get down on it.
Dun, 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 dun. Get down on it. Get down on it.
Break it out. There's so many things you can do at Darlington to keep your focus going. The walls always come out to bite. It's a track that rewards focus more than almost any other place because it is just barely 2 grooves wide. But sometimes you need a little bit of funky music to keep you going.
And we can tell you to play that funky music, White Boy. Not sure how that one would go, but Jay McDonald coming through the field up here with Mark Kalen following behind him in that Martin Sports machine. Little roasted gems on it as well. Got my little roasted gems hat over here. I need to wear that thing more often.
Mark Kalen, surprisingly, well, as I say that, he's gotten into the wall off of turn 4. I was going to say not much damage from that little contact with Aaron Beaver, but he may have just got a little bit extra damage on the other side of that car as he tries to hold off Robert Gamble, who has been falling a little bit. Gamble potentially artificially high up in the field after qualifying when about a third of the field didn't. He's been falling back a little bit. You saw Abner Acosta pass him a little bit earlier. Mark Kalin takes care of him now. Now Ken Olland looks to the inside a little bit further back of Robert Gamble. Fight for 23rd. Olland to the inside. Should be quick work for Ken Olland. And you see a little bit further back, Trent Dinkle, the driver who elected to start from the pits, didn't want to get into trouble, didn't want to get into any kerfluffles on the opening laps, still struggling to move his way forward through the field. Still currently sits 27th. He's ahead of one driver on the lead lap, who is Pat Harvey, who has managed to pass Matthew Long and get back on the lead lap. But Trent Dinkle's progress forward has been, I think, nothing. It's been negative. He's lost positions.
If you start on pit road and then you don't gain any spots, yeah, I don't know what the strategy call would be on that one, partner. That's he's had a string of bad luck, but he might get mad at me for saying this, and that's fine. I mean, I get it. The only person to blame in the situation for a bad season is yourself. You know, you look at what happened with the Mark Kalin incident. You if you queue up on the radio and you blame somebody for being in the lane, but you the one that washed up into him, that's your fault. You know, you sail it into the corner, you make it up. There's a lot of incidents that we could have went throughout the entirety of this season and wouldn't like, hey, if you make smart business decisions, you know, you're still racing. You're still there. Like, you're still on the track. You're up in the points. He's got speed every week. He's got everything he needs to go up here and contend for it. But at the end of the day, it's right place, right time, smart business decisions.
Going to start reaching lap traffic here soon. Matthew Long has been so rapid that he's pulled a 3-second lead over Richard Regan Jr. And Pat Harvey, Tom Amasi, or Pat Harvey, just Pat Harvey rather. Tom Amasi is already a lap down. Pat Harvey, Clayton Ham, Charles Sumner, Robert Gamble, and Ken Olland. They're going to be the next drivers on track who get caught by our race leader. Pat Harvey gets in the wall, though, off turn 4. Maybe Matthew Long will catch him a little bit quicker than he initially intended to. That is your race leader on screen right now. Matthew Long preparing to do his first work with lap traffic. Pat Harvey already passed him once to get back on the lead lap. Suddenly, things have shifted around.
You got to be really careful of where you attempt to pass the lap traffic when it comes to this place. If you catch them on the entry of the corner, you catch them in the center, well, you're going to have a bad day more than likely. They're slow for a reason, and you're lapping them for a reason. Pat Harvey, actually, he passed the leader. Just has not been able to necessarily go up here and pull away from him. This is going to be, normally we see the battle of first and second fighting who can get through lap traffic better, and that almost got nasty.
That was Clayton Ham in the wall directly ahead of our race leader. Matthew Long still stuck behind Pat Harvey, does get by Clayton Ham with that little error, but things are starting to get dicey for Matthew Long. This could be where everything comes undone. Charles Sumner coming up next, Robert Gamble. They're fighting for position as well. Things are not going to get easier for Matthew Long anytime soon.
It gets worse before it gets better. You got to get around all three of these cars. Oh, they're in the wall in front of him.
Robert Gamble, the second driver to get into the wall. Charles Sumner pulls off onto the apron. He's going to stay out of the way. Now here comes Matthew Long to the inside of Pat Harvey. Gamble hits the wall again through 3 and 4. He's going to try his best to stay out of the way of Long. But there were a couple of extra chicanes that weren't there before at Darlington for Matthew Long.
It's like we just took the rewind button and went back to this morning at 4:40 a.m. on my side of the world. It's a lot of chicanes and a lot of moving chicanes of that have gone around here. My goodness. I almost took it 3 wide there to get around Harvey and to get around the other one that was in the wall right there. Wow. And you have to sit here and think, if you're Long, you got a 2.5 second lead. You built the cushion of where you necessarily want to be, but now you have to keep that lead. As we're looking all the way back here for the battle for 15th, and now we're on board with Chris Hudson.
Chris Hudson ripping the wall here. A nice camera shot there through the right rear window of the Chevrolet number 43. Hudson working on Brett Punkari now. Remember, Chris Hudson wasn't allowed to qualify, started in the 20s, still driving his way forward, doing Chris Hudson things. Always good over the course of a long run. And speaking of the long run, as we prepare to have a three-way battle here, I would be remiss not to mention that Abner Acosta has driven up to third place and is preparing to pass Richard Regan Jr. for second, as Brett Punkari goes for the move on Luke Christian for seventh.
And Chris Hudson's trying to go for the move. It's 27. Or Luke Christian almost cut the wall there off in 2. Looks like going to be a trouble spot here in the next gen cars as well. Hudson's going to go to the bottom here. In the wall just a tad bit. Good little Darlington stripe. Oh, still in the wall.
Another one.
You hit the wall. You hit the wall. Everybody hits the wall here.
That's the Darlington way, unfortunately. All of these cars, they're gonna struggle to pass inspection. They're gonna be a good 2 to 3 inches narrower than they were at the start of the race.
Just don't tear the frosting off the donut. That's all I care about. That donut's precious out there for the world. I know now I'm craving donuts, so it sounds like I'm going to get up extra early to go get donuts in the morning. I might stop at the Amy's Bakery over here outside of my house. I'll just have to leave by like 5:50 a.m. to get some. But you know why he's got the VCO back here on the back, man. Kudos to VCO yesterday. What a tremendous job they did. 5 events in one, and with a massive command center. Just a remarkable job from all of them over RaceSpot and the VCO.
I'm always thankful for the support the VCO gives us for not only the Precision Racing League events, but everything in a whole of sim racing with all of VCO esports. Always thankful for them, all the special events they put on over the course of the year. That's why we thank them every single week, and it's never enough. As Josh Daniels running into some lap traffic himself, Robert Gamble is now getting swallowed up by the rest of the field. Abner Acosta has passed Richard Regan Jr., by the way, in the meantime. He is up to second. Now he looks forward to bring down a 3-second gap to Matthew Long. Skip Gandy skips into the wall off turn 2.
All right, I'm blaming Hugo for that one, because the moment we go on board, the wall is all you see. That fan attack number 20. You see more issues going on up here. Oh, no. Chris Hudson got popped by Robert Gamble. He's hit that wall. Pretty much we've showed him every time he's hit the wall. Looks like he's about to get the wall here on 4. But, close. There's a lot of closes. Luke Christian's on pit road.
Luke Christian kicking off the pit cycle here. This is very interesting. Is this a deliberate move to kick off the pit cycle here? We're 46 laps into the stint. If he can't make it to a third of the race on lap 50, are we going to... I'm doing the math in reverse right now. It's screwing me up, because if you can make it to lap 50, that would be a 2-stop with 3 50-lap stints. If you can't make it to lap 50, you're either going to have to do some big fuel saving, or you're going to be a little bit short. Luke Christian and the world's shortest staircase looking a little bit nervous. Maybe he's just warming his hands up there, but this looks like a scheduled stop. That might tell me that this strategy could unravel in about 50 laps time.
He got me over here thinking about math, and I hate math. But, I mean, theoretically, I would have... I normally don't like to agree with you, because I think you're wrong, you know, at least 99% of the time. And I'm sure you think I'm wrong 99% of the time too, but I would have pitted on lap 55 or lap 60. Give yourself that at least a 10-lap buffer in between from 50 to 60, and in that window come down and pit, or potentially try to stretch this thing out to 75 if you can run it. I know a lot of these drivers are banking on the yellow flag to come out because it is Darlington, and that's normally what we see here as a caution in the early portions. But it's I'm kind of surprised by that strategy. I'd be interested if he watches this back, regardless of where it puts him on the charts, to just tell me why that was the strategy.
Matthew R.D. Campbell up into the top 10, running well at Darlington here. great to see one of those aerokinetics paint schemes, a team that's joined the PRL this season. New team with Matt Campbell and a whole host of others. Great paint schemes across the whole of that squad. Always love seeing them. Behind him, though, Brandon Walter, he's doing sort of a mini Abner Acosta right now, making progress forward a little bit slower. He just passed in the background Johan Seminario for P11, and he looks forward at the beautiful aerokinetics paint scheme that I was just complimenting, and Brandon Walter's going to try and kick that out of the top 10. But here's Lou Christian on those fresh tires, working to get his lap back. You can see the effect the new tires have. Is this a deliberate undercut from Lou Christian? If it is, he's getting a lot of speed out of it for now.
Yeah, for now though, that's the part that it gets me. You'll get that, right at the moment. It's an instant relief, kind of like a tax return. You get that tax return, and then you blow it, and, well, you don't have tax return no more. But I am just surprised at what the long-term benefit's going to be here. Richard Regan Jr. comes down. He's in the 50 to 60 ballpark here as well. We'll see how many more people starts to come down the pit lane, as it looks like
Seminario's in. Scotty John, or actually that's Beaver. No, that is Scotty Johnson. The two very similar paint schemes. I think I used all of my words last night. I'm forgetting how to say them. But Johnson is in, Seminario's in, Regan Jr.'s in, Beasaw Jr.'s in, Walter is in. This is telling me that we're starting to reach the skint limits of these fuel tanks. James O'Brien is in. Josh Daniels is in. Chris Hudson might be in as well. Mark Kalin is in at the head of your screen. It's definitely looking like an easy two-stop right now.
Yeah, I'll look at what Matthew Long and Abner Acosta are doing. I don't see them necessarily backing that pace down anytime soon. I would imagine, normally we see Abner Acosta goes about 5-6 laps, longer than most. Tries to stretch this out, but we're looking right here at Matthew Long, still on this racetrack, showing no signs so far, coming off to the making an attempt to pit. Still got a 2-second lead. Stretch it out to 60 and see if maybe you can go 60-60, or pray for a caution after you hit 60, get a caution at 30-40 laps, and then you should be at that moment good to the end once you pit.
Bad news for fans of Stephen Hassett. He's still on pit lane with about 9 minutes of damage. Trent Dinkle also has disconnected from the session. His bad race unfortunately gotten even worse. Mark Kalin missed his box. Things have gotten even worse for Mark Kalin. He's gonna have to come down again. And Scotty Johnson also missed his box. So a lot of bad luck throughout the field. Things are falling apart. But here comes Matthew Long, your race leader, down pit road. Abner Acosta is going to stay out for one more lap. Matthew Long brings it down.
It comes down, no surprise that Abner stayed on the racetrack. His last time by was a 31.9. It's a full 2 seconds slower than his personal best out there in a 29.8. But that was also in traffic, so not necessarily sure what Abner has when it comes to that, but he's going to peak down here, go that one extra lap, try to keep yourself out of traffic, put yourself in a much different sequence. You're going to lose a little time. I think he understands that at this moment, that he might lose 2 seconds. He might go up to 4. But that one extra lap, he was able to...
Taylor Stout in the background there, Terry. Taylor Stout was trying to come down pit road, and he missed it. Taylor Stout completely missed pit lane. He's going to have to come down again in a lap's time if he does want to come down. Also, I did notice there were two very different pit entries between Acosta and Long, but there it is. Taylor Stout on the brakes too late. It's almost like a road course trying to come into the pits at Darlington. Taylor Stout waited that little bit too long, and he's got to go around a full another lap.
Yeah, and then he has to pick back up the speed, but he's going to lose a ton of time. He might lose an extra lap. You'll lose 1 lap being on the pit lane. I'm sure you're probably going to lose 2 at this moment, and that's not a good way to go. But you see here, Matt Long back on the lead lap. Abner Acosta is just now coming off the exit of pit road. Going to have some traffic to deal with up ahead. As he ends up in clean traffic for just a tad bit, he won't be there for long.
Gap between Abner Acosta and Matthew Long now up to 3.5 seconds. That is what the undercut has done for Matthew Long. Pat Harvey brings it down pit road this time. Taylor Stout does make pit road this time, so he'll bring it down. And it's a familiar sight from last week now. Brett Pancari staying out, hoping for that caution. It worked for him very well at Darlington, or at Rockingham last week, or reasonably well, rather. He did get his caution. He managed to restart in the lead of the race. He did quickly fall back, but it did work for him for a moment.
He led under caution. He led it to the restart, and he led us to 1, but he didn't lead us out of 2. Pretty sure, if my memory is right, he was on the outside real fast. He was getting swallowed up like a brick in the ocean. Because now you see he's all the way up against the wall here. If you have nothing else to lose, in which he's already having a decent run, you know, Brett Picari's doing a really good job so far, managing at the top 10, and now he's coming down. But if he was to get a caution right now, you still got time to bail.
Brett Pancari is in, and his hope that a caution comes out. It will not come for him, but it was a long stint for him. Could be a long stint for him again. If we do get a ton of yellow, maybe you could start thinking about fuel saving. Maybe you could start thinking about maybe only doing, or maybe bringing it to the end of the race if you do get enough caution. But it has been green all the way through here for the first 60 laps. No signs of a caution, no even chances at a caution. There was a few incidents. There was Roy Grande, there was Aaron Beaver, but other than that, there have been very few incidents, and Brett Pancari's completely missed his box. He's still trying to back up to get back in there. He is finally in the box, but it's fallen apart for Brett Pancari. Those tires were destroyed, so it's no surprise that he was sliding through.
Maybe the drivers know that we're tired, so they're trying to rush this race over. As in a blink of an eye, 61 laps have been completed. It caught me by surprise when I looked up and said, oh, wait, we're pitting already? I'm half asleep over here, so I apologize to everybody that's watching on RaceSpotTV. I am a little sleepy. I had about 5 hours of sleep. It's been a good day. I did have Denny's for dinner, though. I had the breakfast burger. It's got an egg with hash browns and bacon on it.
The biggest winner of that pit cycle was actually Richard Regan Jr., who's managed to cycle around in the lead. Now that Brett Pancari and Jordan Slater have brought it down, the positions as they read are correct now. Richard Regan Jr., who came in 4 laps earlier than Matthew Long, has pulled an undercut to get back in the race lead. Matthew Long sits second now. Lou Christian, the earliest stopper of anybody. The undercut has worked beautifully for him for the moment. He's up to third, ahead of James O'Brien, ahead of Abner Acosta. Now, all 5 of those drivers are on completely different tire strategies. They're all going to fall off at completely different times. But in the short term, the undercut has worked to get track position.
Now they need a caution. Because if you look at the lap times, I love this portion. Even tired me enjoys it. It was a 30.1 for Richard Regan Jr., 29.8 for Matt Long, 30.4 for James O'Brien, and a 30.6 for Lou Christian, 30.1 for Abner Acosta. So if you're, you know, at least 3 of these drivers inside the top 5, you're going to need a caution right now. You'll need that caution before you lose much more than you had. You think about Richard Regan Jr., he's going to lose this race lead to Matt Long here in just a moment. For Lou Christian and James O'Brien, you can lose 5 spots and put you right where you were sitting, you know, when you came on pit lane, but you don't want to wait that long. You'd hope for the caution to come out potentially in the next 10 laps. That way you could run your way all the way to or close to the end with maybe one more pit stop.
Matthew Long has caught Richard Regan Jr. through the traffic. Byron Johnson was holding up Richard Regan Jr. for a little while. He struggled to pass him, and in the process, things have closed up to absolutely naught between the 2 Dirty South Racing teammates. Off of turn 2, Matthew Long peeks to the inside of Richard Regan Jr., and the teammates are not going to fight this. Matthew Long and Richard Regan Jr. know that it's kind of a foregone conclusion here. Matthew Long on the fresher rubber is going to blow by Richard Regan Jr. and take his lead back.
Yeah, like the leaf blower in SpongeBob Season 3. 1 leaf is all you needed to move. He moved the leaf. Matt Long takes that lead back, and now he'll set sail. He, surprisingly enough, was only 4/10 faster. So the tires really are starting to fall rapidly around here, and we'll see how quick Matt Long can actually get around Jay McDonald. who seem to be as he just moves for him. So a little bit of gamesmanship here so far in this race, where the lap traffic's courteous, one lap, and then the next lap, they'll do them.
Abner Acosta's gotten by Lou Christian as well for P4. Difference in their ages of tires is about 11 laps, and that is very, very abundantly clear. You saw Byron Johnson getting the wall off of turn 2. Now we do tune in with Abner Acosta, who just made the move on Lou Christian like a lap ago, and he's already pulled a full second over Lou for 4th.
Yeah, he's gone. That's a massive difference in tires. And if you're Lou Christian, like I said, you're knocking on that door of, hey, I got a 7-second buffer, all the way back to 8th, all the way back to VCO Jr. If I'm Lou Christian, I'm going, hey, queuing up on that radio, somebody have an incident and pull it up on track, or just if you spin, just get your right tires on that line, and put me here. As he's got a whole host of traffic behind him. The thing is, just don't be the caution.
He's got to make sure he doesn't get involved in it. Chris Hudson gets by cleanly. Lou Christian loses out to Chris Hudson, and Josh Daniels falls to P7. And like Terry said, he does look back now, 5 seconds back to Robert VCO Jr. Definitely going to be hoping he doesn't lose that much. Charles Sumner going to pull out of the way down in the apron to let everybody by. Still no caution yet. We're almost approaching halfway on lap number 75. It has been a remarkably clean race so far for Darlington. Just kind of goes to show the level of skill here in the Precision Racing League, in the NASCAR Cup Series. This is probably the best field the PRL NASCAR Cup Series has ever seen, because it just keeps getting better and better season after season. I'm not going to jinx anything, but we've had a very clean first half of this race.
And you've jinxed it. If we start getting a string of cautions, I hope the chat revolts about you. You're gonna get a lot of nasty hate mail in that YouTube chat. I'm gonna stir it up too, because we're having a very good race, Joey. Every time you say something, you tend to flip that switch. I feel like you got like you remember one of those the Buffalo Wild Wings commercials where they wanted the game to go into overtime, so they have to go home for happy hour, and they flip the switch. I feel like that's you. You flip a switch and say, all right, let's extend this race just a little bit.
Byron Johnson might be the switch. He just hit the wall again, and he's going to pull down to pit road here, as Byron Johnson just gotten a meatball from hitting the wall one too many times. That's the only thing I can think of here, because it's lap 73, not even halfway. You can't make it to the end from here. Byron Johnson pulls it down pit road, likely with damage, because that was like the 5th or 6th time that he managed to hit the wall off of turn 2.
You smack that wall a couple times. You might get away with it the first, second, or third time, but eventually the damage model, bear with me, I'm tired, it's time with damage. So if you continuously hit the wall, it begins to build up, and the more damage you get over a certain amount of time, well, that's how you break stuff. So I think I explained that right with the tired version to me, but something we don't have to explain hard is the 5 machine on fresh tires, or fresher tires than the ones in front of him. He's coming through the field like a rocket ship.
As always, the Tire Whisperer using those tires, whispering to those tires, pulling them out of his hat. The Tire Wizard, so many more metaphors I could choose there, but his magic wand is working as he tries to pass Mike Witt now, who is a lap down. So this will just be a move in traffic for Abner Acosta to have one less car between him and Richard Regan Jr., who's 4 seconds up the road. But when Abner Acosta is about half a second a lap faster than Richard Regan Jr. per lap, that's only about 8 laps that separates him from Regan, as Richard Regan Jr.'s in the wall on the front straight. He's gotten together with, I think, Jay McDonald there, who was a lapped car. Richard Regan Jr. with heavy damage, no caution again, but second place in the race has been taken out.
I cannot wait to see a replay. It's now Abner's going to catch here. Here we go.
Here it is. That is McDonald to the outside. Oh.
Wow. That Clayton Ham? The 7?
That is Clayton Ham. You're correct. That was not McDonald. The screen was a little bit too pixelated for me. But that was Clayton Ham and Richard Regan Jr. getting into each other. Clayton Ham apologized over the radio. I have to imagine that Richard Regan Jr. not going to be too happy with that.
Yeah, I don't imagine so. That just looked like a case of thinking you had more room than you did. It's a common occurrence here. You don't have a whole lot. You don't have a whole lot of room here, regardless. As now we take a look here at Richard Regan Jr. He's going to struggle big time with that damage. I mean, you got to imagine here, damage-wise, it's just not going to be good for him.
I might be misremembering, but I'm thinking back to Michigan in week 2. I think Richard Regan Jr. and Clayton Ham came together there too in a very similar way on the front straight. So I might be misremembering which car was involved. Richard Regan Jr. was definitely involved. His season is slowly unraveling, unfortunately, in the first half. Also, Mark Kalin has been given a meatball flag. He said to come down pit road to get 30 seconds of required damage repaired. He says that Matthew Long gave him a meatball. He said that Matthew Long, a race leader, might have pushed him into the wall a little bit. I don't know if we have a replay of that, but Mark Kalin feels slighted by our race leader. Might have been a little bit naughty lapping him.
There's it's always hard, you know, after a lot of these drivers competed in the 24. Here's the replay. No, I mean
Yeah, we might need to see a little bit earlier there. We might need a little bit more context, but I would say that Mark Kalin gave Mark Kalin a meatball there.
Yeah, you can't blame that on the 28. Like I said, out of context, we saw it from where we saw it from. That's missing a point. You know, that's missing a little bit of a marker there on the wall. But man, what a crazy turn of a race this has been. Green, and we've seen different shifts in this race where, you know, we're catching the wall quite a bit. We've seen drivers who make, you know, no mistakes or uncharacteristically making mistakes. What a weird one.
Johan Seminario made no mistakes so far, other than a few Darlington stripes, but I don't think there's a single car in the field that hasn't hit the wall once or twice. He's now challenging Brandon Walter for P11, just outside of the top 10. Brett Punkari's in a pretty comfortable spot in the last spot in the top 10. With Seminario, Walter, and also Matt Campbell right behind. It's a three-way battle for 11th.
Yeah, they're close. If my eyes don't deceive me, that's our race leader behind them. So this battle for 11th. It's about to be a battle.
Byron Johnson, by the way, on fresh tires, who came down potentially after getting a meatball. He's on fresh tires. You can already see halfway through the stint the effect of those new tires. Byron Johnson's last lap time, I think, was a solid second faster than both of these two.
Well, yeah, this is about to be a battle between Walter and the 12 machine of, are you going to stay on the lead lap? And if the caution was to come out, which one of you are the free pass? Because the 28 of Long is right behind him.
Brandon Walter getting a little bit close to the wall off of 2 there. Ends up about halfway onto the apron with that little mistake. Through 3 and 4. Rides it up high. Rides it up too high into the wall. That's a gift for Seminario. Off of turn 4, Brandon Walter's momentum is stunted. Are these two about to go side by side in front of the race leader? Seminario is going to hit the wall in front of the race leader. Matthew Long peeks to the inside into turn 1.
Yeah, he's going to get to the inside, but that wall caught him, and we'll see what the 12 does. He's not going to stay on the outside there. He's gonna just move out of the way. Leader gets a little loose. Now going to try to make that move on the 99 of Walter, if he can make it stick down there on the inside.
Remember, Walter is Abner Acosta's teammate, so he's got a little bit of extra motivation to keep Matthew Long on the wayside for the moment, but there's no fighting Matthew Long. He's so fast right now. Off the exit of turn 4, Brandon Walter knows it's a foregone conclusion. Race leader gets through. Brandon Walter goes back to fighting for P11.
Yeah, and it would have been a real messed up move. Brandon Walter's a good dude. Wouldn't have imagined he would have sat there and raced him, even though his teammate is second. And yeah, that's technically what you're supposed to do, is hold them up. to let your teammate catch up. But if your teammate's fast enough, if Abner Acosta's fast enough, he'll drive that 5.3 seconds back up to the back bumper to that 28 machine. If he's not fast enough, don't be the reason that you cost somebody a win who has led pretty much this entire race. Here we go on board with Is wearing a loser shirt in the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Brett Pancari doesn't live in a magazine store, doesn't live in an FYE in the mall, just lives in the world's most fantastic and slay basement of all time. He's currently trying to fight with Robert Besaw Jr. for P9, and it's not even going to be a fight. It's going to be an easy move. Brett Pancari to the inside, Brett Pancari to P9, Princess Daisy, Peugeot, P9. It's a world of Ps.
I wonder if he potentially has like a wrestling shirt, like maybe a Ric Flair or Hulk Hogan shirt.
Well, he has a Princess Daisy costume. He broke it out on Halloween. We got to wait a good 10 months for that to come back then, though.
I'll wear a Mario one if we're on Halloween this year. I think we are, because RSR was Halloween last time. I think
that's 9 months in advance. I can't do that math. I'm not Pope Gregory.
Wow, you got a calendar. I mean, I technically do too. I guess I can look. I'm lazy. People at home, there's 43 of you. Somebody tell me when Halloween is this year.
October 31st.
Yeah. What day? What day does it fall on?
There should. When I'm president, I'm going to propose that there's just days that aren't days, that are just holidays. We just add them to the calendar, but that'll be a couple of years in the future. It is Tuesday, apparently, so that'll be the GT3 series, assuming things are still the same in the PRL in 4 or 3 seasons' time. That'll be a GT3 special on Halloween night. It's Brett Pancari getting a little bit spooky behind Ken Olland. Olland says, you know what, I'm moving to the inside. You can take it, Brett. And Brett Pancari does now look forward to Taylor Stout, who's the next driver on the road. Richard Regan Jr. a little bit further ahead as well, riding heavily damaged. He's going to get swallowed up by this whole pack of Christian and Stout and Pancari. That heavy damage not helping Richard Regan Jr.
I will do my best to maybe fill in on Halloween. Hopefully everybody here at RaceSpot either has kids or wants that day off. I'll be a child of my own over here and dress up for GT3 and the PRL. We'll have a little fun, but a lot of traffic here in front of Brett Pancari and in the VR headset with the Jacksonville Loser Jaguars shirt on here. Doing a nice job. He's actually catching really quick. You see how quick he closed in on that right there?
Pancari absolutely flying right now. It looks physically quick while we're riding on board, and the numbers don't lie either. 31.4 on the last lap for Pancari, 31.7, 31.8, 31.8 for everybody around him. Lots of battles for position, lots of battles with lap cars as well. Taylor Stout and Lou Christian, that's for position. Matt Campbell and Robert Besaw Jr. not for position. And Brett Pancari just finds himself in the middle of the cloud trying to figure out where to go. Lou Christian has fallen to Taylor Stout. That's the next car for position. But Eric Papineau and Aaron Beaver clogging up the road for Brett Pancari.
There's a lot of traffic around this racetrack. Laps down. I mean, Long has lapped all the way up to the top 10. So Brett Pancari is going to go to the inside here of Eric Papineau. He's going to make that move stick, and now he gets to set his sights on another lap machine before he gets all the way up to Lou Christian, who's one spot up ahead. But have we ever had a race go this quick?
We've had caution-free races before, specifically in the PRL NASCAR Cup Series at Darlington. I remember about a year ago, maybe even 2 years ago at this point, it was a titanic battle between Abner Acosta and Bradley Holly. Caution-free, whole race. I don't actually remember who came out on top, but it was either Bradley Holly or Abner Acosta, because those were the two tire wizards at the time. Those were the two best of the best. Abner Acosta's kind of met his match here with Matthew Long. Brett Pancari, though, in the macro here, in the micro rather, peeks to the inside of Lou Christian, and that'll be Brett Pancari up into P8 if Lou Christian can't fight this back, and he can't. He falls back.
Tires are gone. He's got 15 laps extra on those tires. They've had enough. They don't want to run no more. But so you see lap 50 is when Christian came down lap 35 from Macari. So he's technically on the freshest tires out of everybody on the racetrack at the moment. We'll just see what he can do with it. So with coming to 53 laps to go.
I think that was Lou Christian in the background coming down pit road again. So he's going for an early stop again. It's been 50 laps since he last came in, and Lou Christian is indeed down pit road for the final time. You can see on the ticker on the left side of your screen the ages of the tires. It has been a long while since that last stop. So everybody thinking, when do I make my last stop? Do I go for an undercut again and hope that a caution comes out? Do I go for the overcut and stay out for as long as possible and also hope a caution comes out? Or do I just go conservative and come in on lap 100, even things out? There's almost no correct decision. Anything can backfire.
Yeah, I think if you're up front, if you're this 28 machine, you can do whatever you want. If you want to pit, you can go pit. But if you look up in the distance here, there's a one Mark Kalin. And if he sincerely thinks that the 28 of Matthew Long is the one that put him in that wall, you don't know what he's going to do by the time he gets all the way up there to him. You don't know if he's going to block him, if he's going to sit there and hold him up. Maybe just slow his pace down to force the 28 to make a move that he doesn't want to make. Could be an interesting scenario.
Well, Mark Kalin's currently 12 laps down, so I don't think he could defend being aggressive in any way, because he's not fighting to stay on the lead lap. He's not fighting for the lucky dog. He'd just be being a little bit of a pooper there. So I don't think Mark Kalin's gonna get into any shenanigans like that. Brett Pancari has some shenanigans of his own, though. Positive shenanigans, smart business moves to the inside of Taylor Stout. Byron Johnson on fresher tires behind, still just struggling to not get into the back of him. Brett Pancari up into P7. And maybe now Byron Johnson can finally make those moves on Stout and Pancari and at least get one of his spots back. He is 3 laps down, though.
Yeah, at least people are running all the laps. You sign up for the league, you sign up for the race, come out, complete all of them unless you're significantly damaged. And we've seen a lot of these drivers get caught in the wall at some point in time, and they're 6 seconds away from potentially getting lapped by our race leader. They once they come down pit lane, they'll be right there on the back bumper as Walter, Eminario come in, O'Brien's in. A lot of drivers starting to come down here.
The carousel of entertainment begins. Long still staying out, Acosta still staying out, Daniels, Hudson, Regan still awaiting potentially a caution to save them. But O'Brien is in, Skip Gandy's going to be in as well. Seminario makes his box straightforwardly. A little bit of smoke in the background, I think just from drivers locking up, trying to bring it down pit lane. I don't think that's going to be anything even resembling a caution, but James O'Brien pulls it into his box. Robert Besaw Jr. is going to leave the lane, and as this is happening, on the other side of the track, Josh Daniels is in. Chris Hudson's in as well. I think everybody's going to be in here in the next couple of laps, unless you've got a Brett Pancari who wants to go a little bit longer. Richard Regan Jr., his day's just gotten a little bit worse. He didn't miss it, but I think he did hit the wall on entry.
Yeah, he caught it, and we'll see. Doesn't have any more damage than he had.
He might have just spun.
And we'll see what he did. It's hard to miss the wall.
Oh,
he caught the wall.
a late downshift just killed him.
Yeah, he bounced it there, but didn't put any damage any more than he had on it off the original issue he had early on, and he's definitely going to lose at least 2-3 laps. He's going to drop a substantial amount of time, and what was a very promising race with the promising strategy to sit up there and possibly could have been sitting P3 is now going to be a lousy day.
And remember who won here on the first Wednesday night of 2023 at Darlington in the Xfinity Series. It was Richard Regan Jr. who won after that incredible duel with Sean Campbell. So he's a very strong driver at Darlington. He knows how to get around this place, but it's a bad day for everybody. And unfortunately today is Richard Regan Jr.'s bad day with Clayton Ham, with his own mistake coming into the pits. Richard Regan Jr. likely just going to be fighting to stay in the top 10 at the end of tonight. He needed a good day to bring the points down to catch Matthew Long, but Matthew Long has had an absolutely pristine day that almost got just slightly less pristine as he put a lap on Clayton Hammond.
I don't even think Richard Regan Jr. is going to get to the top 10. It'd be 2 laps down, which probably will only gain 1 lap back by the time all the pit stops are there and done, and all the other drivers in front of him do not have damage, or, well, they didn't spin on pit lane. They didn't give up a lot of time, so we'll be interested to see when the leader comes down. And now here he comes. When does Abner Acosta come in that 2 seconds? He has to come in now.
Judging by the ticker, I have to imagine that Abner Acosta has followed him in. Yes, he has. Matthew Long gets it slowed down. Abner Acosta gets it slowed down, but that was a much better run to pit entry for Abner Acosta. Maybe some of that road course experience coming into the fray here on the brakes. Abner Acosta has closed that gap down massively.
Yeah, we're going to see a fight. This race is not over. He closed down. He was 2 seconds back. That time delta went down under 1 second. Matt Long went very conservative into the pit lane, while Abner Acosta, he went full blown. Yeah.
Abner Acosta 14.4 seconds in the box. Compare that with Matthew Long. Dead even, exactly the same. They've spent the same amount of fuel. Their crews have been paid exactly the same amount. And it is going to be a hand versus hand combat to the end of this race. Matthew Long versus Abner Acosta, separated by 1 second as they come out of the pits with 42 laps to go.
That's the lowest it has been all race long. So think about that for a second. It's there. And for James O'Brien, if you're looking at him, he still didn't get the lead. With the undercut, he's 6 laps on his tires. Still didn't take the lead from the 28 machine.
James O'Brien is probably going to have to do a little bit of team orders here soon to make sure he's not holding up his teammate Acosta. Acosta hasn't caught him yet. Abner's currently doing his tire wizard things. He's currently just hanging back, saving a little bit. He's not really going to fire off until about halfway through the stint, I think. But the question is, will that be too late? Does he need to be more aggressive early on to keep this gap down to Matthew Long? It might not matter right now because Matthew Long has more pressing things to worry about. There's a train of 6 lapped cars coming up. Matthew Long has to pass every single one of them. They've all pitted.
I think if you're looking at it right now from an Abner Acosta scenario, he's 1.8 seconds back. Every other time he's been 3-4 seconds back. So we go on board with him. This is the closest he's really been. I mean, in all actuality, he just has not had an opportunity to really be in this race. Now this is his chance. You're 1.7 seconds back. You know you can start to pick up some time. You just got to make it happen now. I mean, this is go time.
Matthew Long making quick work in the traffic. Abner Acosta has to make just as quick of the work here. To the inside of the 97 of Aaron Beaver, who's multiple laps down. Beaver not going to leave the most room in the world, but it's going to be more than enough for Abner Acosta. Eric Papineau coming up next. James O'Brien gets held up. Abner Acosta is going to get held up as well off of turn 4 to the inside. This is scary stuff here. Nobody wants to be the driver who takes out the leader, but all these drivers who are fighting for the last spot in the lead lap, for the lucky dog as the last driver, the first driver 1 lap down, they all have very good reasons to fight to stay on the lead lap.
I mean, he's growing his lead even though he's in traffic. I think that tells you what the 28 machine actually has when it comes to pace. Because now here we go with the 5, he's going to get around his
switch,
and yeah, he moves. I mean, that's perfect team orders. Just hey, get out of my way, please, and thank you. And he does, and he'll pull away quickly. We'll see what this gap does. I mean, we're going to have what's the math? 36 laps to go. Now here's the change. You know, can we see Abner Acosta go up there and pull 2.2 seconds back? And is the pace even here?
The bad news for Abner Acosta, though, is that Matthew Long has passed every single one of those lap cars. Ken Holland, Byron Johnson, Matt Campbell, they've all been passed by Matthew Long. He's in the clear for the moment, and now Abner Acosta has to do all that work himself. Byron Johnson is on fresh tires, so he's going to pull forward. He shouldn't be very difficult to pass, but Ken Holland is on aged rubber. He's in a damaged car. Matt Campbell trying to fight for his lucky dog spot, and a few others. Brandon Walter going to be coming up soon as well. It's not going to be easy work for Abner Acosta. He's going to catch Ken Holland now, coming down the back straight. Should likely be able to make the move down the front straight on him and on Matt Campbell, but they're too wide. Abner Acosta's got to start getting worried right now.
I think you're worried with just one car, to be honest, Joey. The way they've been popping off the wall, been hitting it like a fly hits a trap. Gets around there. Now we'll see. He'll continuously catch the slower lap traffic in front. He's not bringing that gap down to the leader either. It's 2.7 seconds now 2.8. It's growing quite a bit here over the past 2-3 laps.
Next up on Abner's list, it's Matthew Campbell, and that'll be straightforward for Abner. He gets a little bit of respite now for a few moments until he does finally catch Byron Johnson, or if he does catch Byron Johnson. It's not a foregone conclusion. Byron Johnson is on the same aged rubber as Matthew Long and Abner Acosta right now, so there might not be any reason for him to let him by. Mark Kalin pulls onto the apron to let Abner by, and basically to let the whole field by. I think Mark Kalin might be pitting again. No, he's not. If he was, he missed it. I think he's just letting everybody by. He's 12 laps down.
Yeah, no sense in causing the issue, and you said it best as well. If you don't want to be that driver that takes somebody out for no reason, and no reason for it. As we take a look right here at the driver in the fifth place position, Chris Hudson, just tapping along, trying to get around Daniels.
It wouldn't be a PRL NASCAR Cup Series race unless there was a Chris Hudson versus Josh Daniels battle in the top 5. It's basically just guaranteed.
It is. It has to be.
So nobody is more evenly matched than these two. It's rare. I don't say this as a diss. It's rare that you see them fighting for the lead of the race, but it is not rare. In fact, it is ubiquitous. It is every single week that over these long runs, Josh Daniels and Chris Hudson, they just run their own races. They ride in silence, and they end up with a top 5 right next to each other every single week. It's like clockwork.
We need one to have Dunkin' Donuts with the other one with Krispy Kreme, and just have a battle of the donuts every week.
Mark Kalin out of the way. Chris Hudson still waiting to make the move. I don't even know if he will make the move on Josh Daniels, rather. They're on equally aged tires. They're basically equal on speed. And they've got about 4 seconds up to James O'Brien. They've got 5 seconds back to Lou Christian. It's basically their own little silent race. It's their own little bit of consistency.
Yeah, with 30 laps to go. There's really no sense in overly fighting this, because you'll burn your stuff up, and then you're just going to let the other person get around. He's just sitting back there minding his business in the 5th place position, going, hey, no sense in it. I got it.
Pulling a little bit further forward is Josh Daniels, but Chris Hudson keeping him company, and I can guarantee you these two aren't going to be separated until the end of the race, as they always are. Abner Acosta up front, barely bringing the gap down. It's now down to about 2.5 seconds, but that's ebbing and flowing in the traffic between our two fightees for the race lead. Closest battle on track right now, other than this, might be Richard Regan Jr. and Taylor Stout, which is preparing to heat up. Richard still in that damaged car, didn't get any of it fixed on pit road with the wall contact or with the nose contact that he got from coming into the pits. And his teammate Taylor Stout is coming up right behind him for P8.
Feel bad for any Cowboys fan that's out there. They suck again. They just lost, and the world rejoices. But man, this race has flown by. This has been a very weird Darlington race. I thought after the first couple laps we would see, when we saw the wall contact, that we would see a little bit of argy-bargy. We would see some incidents going on between drivers. Green flag racing. And there's still 13 minutes to go, technically, in the race.
This is basically an endurance race at this point. No track really tests you as much as Darlington does when you're driving in the car, and you don't get any breaks. You get maybe a 14-second break while you're sitting in the box to stretch a little bit. But other than that, we've been green for the entirety of this race. For the first 125 laps, none of these guys have gotten a break. They've got to start feeling the fatigue, even though it has only been about an hour since we started.
Yeah. You know what? If we get a string of cautions now, obviously, we could potentially end on time. But keeping it green, we'll have a very decent amount of time that's left over. Take a look at VCO and Stout having a little fight right here for this 9th place position. It's gonna go right.
Both of these guys are gonna have some bait in front of them with Richard Regan Jr., who we know is riding damage. So that might be one spot for Stout, might be one spot for VCO, and that might be one spot for who else but Brett Punkari riding behind, still in the top 10. Easily the race of his season so far. Got to lead some laps under caution. Like we said at Rockingham last week, the strategy worked for him in the short term. But again, here at Darlington, in the long runs, Brett Punkari's NASCAR experience, his next-gen experience specifically, really paying off for him. Consistently in the top 10 all night long.
Yeah, it's been a really good run. And at the moment, if you look at when the last time he pitted was like 19. So I would expect him to get around Robert VCO Jr. right here very quickly. Be able to wipe that one clean. It's about a 10-lap difference on tires. There he goes to the inside into one. Make that pass look rather simple, rather easy. And then you got to think, okay, now he's got a 5-lap difference up here, or a 1-lap difference up to Stout, and then a 3-lap difference up to Richard Regan Jr., who does have that damage. With coming up on 20 laps to go, anything is possible for Punkari.
Remember our old friend Lou Christian, again, came in earlier than anybody else to kick off the final pit cycle. He's starting to have his patented fall off, as he did in the first stint. Last lap was half a second slower than Richard Regan Jr., then Taylor Stout, then Brett Punkari. You can't see him on your screen just yet, but you will be seeing him in a matter of moments as everybody behind him is preparing to catch back up here. Some of these lapped cars still just trying to survive to the end of the race. They've been passed by Abner Acosta, but Abner Acosta and Matthew Long have not been bringing that gap down. Byron McDonald and Jordan Slater and Scotty Johnson prepare to fight for position behind him, though.
Yeah, it's a battle for a two lap down drivers. Yeah, Jay's not having a good race here. You can look at his lap times. He's 32.8 and a full second off at this moment. Just not having the race he wanted here in that machine. But this is a race.
Hudson and Daniels, they found each other again, and Chris Hudson says, you know what, I'm tired of waiting. I'm getting held up here. I might as well try and go for it. He peeks to the inside in turn 1. Josh Daniels and Chris Hudson giving each other the room. Two of the most respectful drivers in terms of racecraft in the PRL NASCAR Cup Series. Definitely holding each other up here. They were catching James O'Brien, but Chris Hudson giving all the room he can. He's not able to make the move on Josh Daniels for 4th.
They look evenly matched. I mean, when you look at the lap time wise, yeah, he's a little bit faster. It's Hudson over Daniels, but it's nothing too noticeable when you look at it in comparison to trying to get to the inside and make the pass work. It was a 32.0 for Joshua Daniels and Chris Hudson 31.887. You can tell that there's a difference there. You see it, you can feel it, you understand that, but when you go to make the pass, it's two different things to being faster by yourself than just trying to make the pass on the inside or outside.
You can really see the melange of different laps the drivers are on here. This is what green flag racing can do. This is what long runs like this can do. Josh Daniels and Chris Hudson still on the lead lap. Pat Harvey, though, 1 lap down. Johan Seminario, 1 lap down. Charles Sumner, 3 laps down. Scotty Johnson, 2 laps down. Ken Allen, 2 laps down. Basically every single driver in your picture right now is on a completely different lap, fighting for a completely different position. Aaron Beaver, 11 laps down. You've still got to all figure it out. You're still all fighting for track position here. It's, again, like an endurance race where you do have traffic to navigate constantly.
Well, then they got me and you in the booth. We're 133 laps down. Because we never took the green. We were here. No. Mark Kalin, done for the night. He posted out there in the YouTube chat that the 62 had parked it here this afternoon. You're making me hungry. This Krispy Kreme. I don't know whether vacuum my floors with my Dirt Devil or go get Krispy Kreme.
Mark Kalin reached the 50% mark, by the way. You only get points if you finish. Actually, just kidding. That's a road rule. What am I thinking? You do get points for every finishing position here in the PRL NASCAR Cup Series, and Mark Kalin, he knows that he's 8 laps behind Aaron Beaver, so unless there's absolute calamity at the front of the field, there's likely not going to be any more in the tank for Mark Kalin if he did bring it to the end of the race. But Richard Regan Jr. has now fallen to 9th place. His damage hurting him. He's fallen back. Brett Punkari and Lou Christian getting close together as well. We do have quite a few battles for position here. Green flag runs do tend to spread out, but we've got plenty of battling to do on the track here. Chris Hudson, Josh Daniels still navigating their way through traffic. Brett Punkari makes the move on Lou Christian further back. Lots of undecided moves, and Matt Campbell almost brings the caution out, gets in the wall.
Yeah, and Punkari gets around very easily. He starts pulling away on Lou Christian out of the 43 of Hudson. He's going to get to the back bumper of that 77 and look for a spot, but wasn't going to take it, and just sits there and rides once again. As our wonderful producer Hugo Louise gives us great shots here at RaceSpot. Just pulls the scope out for us so we can see everything, and appreciate that, Mace. I like working with Joey. I said we're the best combo on RaceSpot.
And critically, both of these guys are catching James O'Brien right now. This is not just a battle for 4th. This is the battle for 3rd now. James O'Brien, 31.7 on the last lap. Josh Daniels and Chris Hudson, despite their fighting, 31.5 for both of them. This is about to heat up here. James O'Brien is a little bit of a buffer. He's got Mike Witt between him and Daniels and Hudson, but that buffer is about to fall apart.
Yeah, that's tight for the 43. Gets it though off the exit. Yeah, now this is about to be a massive fight. Once they get around Witt, which should, no disrespect, Witt, should be pretty easy to do. Then they're a full second, a little less than a second here. Oh,
that was Mike Witt losing it. Did he get in the wall? We've got to zoom out to see the aftermath of that. I think he was able to save it, but that was a huge moment for Mike Witt.
Oh, man. Yeah, and you got to think that really could change the complexion of this race with the 11 laps to go coming to 10 laps to go. That could have flipped this upside down. It would have put Robert Beastall back on the lead lap. It would have gave us 10 drivers with a chance potentially to get it. As you look at the replay right here, just comes off the exit of the corner and yep.
Woo!
You don't ever want to look at the inside of the wall and go, yep, I'm going to hit that, but missed it.
Good save. No quit, Mike Witt, keeping his foot in it, and he survives to live another day, but you don't want to be having too many of those moments. The second time that happens, the tires are heated up, you're not going to have such an easy time saving it.
I think he had root beer on the hood. It would have been maybe he was drinking something, maybe had a belch or something and went to the inside, but they're catching James O'Brien by about 0.2 of a second as the 77 of Josh Daniels. They tell me it was a 31.759. For James, it was a 31.505. It was the 3rd fastest car on the racetrack. That time was that 77 machine. Had to potentially go up there and make this pass for that 3rd place position.
We're in the single digits of laps to go now. Matthew Long took the line, and it's going to be 8 laps to go for him. Abner Acosta has been slightly faster every single lap, but you can do the math in your own head. You can be 0.2 faster all you want, but when there's only 8 laps left to go, that's not fast enough. That's not enough time. So Abner Acosta really hoping that there's an issue for Matthew Long. Josh Daniels really hoping that he can just make it to the end of the race, and Chris Hudson doesn't force him into a mistake, and James O'Brien also hoping the math works out for him with 7 laps to go. He's only losing about 1/10 per lap. He should be able to hold on if he doesn't lose any more.
Yeah, that time it was exactly 1/10. It was 2/10 all the way back to Chris Hudson. Chris Hudson just became the fastest driver on the racetrack with a 31.3. Time by was a 31.4. actually matched. It was 2/10 up on what James O'Brien has. So they'll continuously run these laps. They'll use the chicane there of the J. McDonald on the inside. This battle, I'm telling you, is not over.
Chris Hudson not giving up, a little bit of a diamond through 1 and 2. He's getting some phenomenal exits, but he can't really do anything with any of them, unfortunately. Down the front straight, catches up to the back of Josh Daniels, gets to his rear bumper, but the exit's just not doing enough for him. Again, it's a great exit off of turn 2. He's got the momentum, but he needs just that little bit more to actually get to the inside of him. And does he actually want to get to the inside of him? Because look who is on the scene now. They have caught James O'Brien. He has fallen off to the extent where this has become a 3-car battle for third.
Definitely struggling right there is James O'Brien. It's now 0.3 of a second is going to separate those 3 drivers. With lap traffic in the way, you see one all the way up against the wall, trying to keep it up there. In the wall. Oh, it's going in. Oh, okay. They had to check out big time there.
There's another moving chicane, unfortunately, or a stationary chicane, rather, because he was in the wall for Daniels and Hudson to avoid there. That's spiced things up just a little bit. Hudson wasn't able to take advantage of the checkup, but he's stuck straight to the back of Josh Daniels, has not let him get away. They're going to fight on, even after that scary moment. Through 1 and 2, Daniels in the wall just a little bit of a tap. He is feeling the pressure from Chris Hudson, but he's doing Josh Daniels things and just riding a consistent line, and Daniels still can't get a nose to the inside.
Yeah, it's one thing to stay on the back bumper of somebody here at Darlington. It's another to pass them, especially with 40-plus laps on your tires. You could attempt to make the move, but they got Brandon Walter right in front of them, who's got pace, has speed to be there in that 11th place position. And now we're going to see who makes the mistake first at which one of these drivers. James O'Brien actually is able to navigate through this traffic a little bit better than Hudson and Daniels here.
James O'Brien definitely saying right now, I am so happy that Brandon Walter is my teammate, because he did just open up the door a little bit there, opened up the gap between Daniels and O'Brien, and I think that might be enough of a buffer for O'Brien to hang on and survive here for third. Chris Hudson running out of time now. When Matthew Long comes to the line, it's going to be 2 laps to go. There's only 2.5 more laps for Josh Daniels to hang on. That's going to be some solace for him. It's going to be no solace for Chris Hudson. He's running out of time to make this move.
And he's too far back at this moment to even try to make a run into turn 1 and see if he gets a good run off the exit of 4. He doesn't. Got to get a little closer. Now he's going to peek, maybe show a little bit and say, hey, I could look here, but Daniels is not like you're not going to sail it in there. You're not going to ruin your race just to get by me for the 3rd place position. And off the exit of 2 is where that 43's had a little bit more speed as the white flag comes out.
Matthew Long takes the white flag, about 1 1/3 of a mile left to go for Matthew Long. It has been an absolutely dominant show once more for Matthew Long. He dominated at Michigan a week ago. He dominated at Rockingham last week. And once again, Matthew Long has been the class of the field, outclassing the tire wizard Abner Acosta at his own game. Off of turn 4, Matthew Long is going to be victorious at Darlington. Josh Daniels and Chris Hudson bring it home as well. They're going to be likely in 4th and 5th together. They're going to continue to fight over this through 3 and 4, but Chris Hudson not able to get to the back of Daniels. Daniels not able to get to the back of James O'Brien. O'Brien's going to bring it home 3rd. Josh Daniels 4th. Chris Hudson comes home with 5th, but Matthew Long, your dominant victor, 3 wins in a row.
Yeah, that's dominance here in this Cup Series. I was surprised when Abner wasn't able to catch him there. Maybe Abner didn't get a lot of practice here this week. I know he participated in the special event, but what a race! Caution free all the way through, and did this perfectly on time.
It just gets more and more difficult every single week to think about how somebody can beat Matthew Long this season. He was great at Michigan, a fast track 2-mile D-shaped oval, high speeds, as close as you can get to a super speedway. Won on the final lap with a great move with fresh tires. Rockingham, potentially the most difficult track for a next-gen car, dominantly wins that. Darlington, basically tied for difficulty in this next-gen car. And Matthew Long, unbeatable there. There's some wild cards coming up later on in the season with the road course at Daytona, with the super speedway of Daytona, with some more intermediate tracks, but Matthew Long cementing himself at the top of this championship and getting some very well-deserved donuts with his teammate Taylor Stout, who brought it home in P6. Great day for Dirty South Racing. They're going to continue to hold their lead in the team's championship. But Matthew Long victorious over Abner Acosta and James O'Brien, over Josh Daniels and Chris Hudson, the two Love Racing teammates. Taylor Stout P6 at the end of it all, and Brett Punkari, first car one lap down, but his best run of the season in P7. Richard Regan Jr. got in the wall, a little bit of an incident with Clayton Ham. He's going to come home P8. And Lou Christian and Robert Esau Jr. round out the top 10. P11 went to Pat Harvey, who got a drive-through early. Brandon Walter, Matt Campbell, and Johan Seminario were one lap down. Jordan Slater, Skip Gandy, Scotty Johnson, Jay McDonald, Mike Witt, and Ken Olland had a little bit of extra trouble. They went 2 laps down, over 150 laps of green flag running. Eric Papineau and Charles Sumner went 3 laps down. Clayton Ham and Byron Johnson went 4 laps down. Tom Amasi and Robert Gamble went 6 laps down. And Aaron Beaver was your last finisher, 11 laps down. Then we get into the used car lot of drivers with heavy damage, weren't able to get back out on track. Mark Kalin wasn't able to make it to the end. Stephen Hassett had heavy damage. Trent Dinkle was out early. Richard Pruitt, a little bit fatigued from Daytona, and Roy Grande out as early as can be. 32 cars in the field tonight at Darlington and 150 laps of green flag racing. The winner of it all, Matthew Long, potentially the least exhausted driver in the field. You just had this place in your fist all night long.
Yeah, man. I love Darlington. I'm just glad we brought a good car, and props to everyone out on track for keeping it caution free, and lap traffic was super kind and no real issues out there. So yeah, it was a fun race.
Abner was catching you there at the end. It was these little increments. It was a tenth. It was 0.2 per lap. Were you looking at your relative? Were you calculating in your head what pace you could run without him catching you, or did you know you had the race under control?
Yeah, I was watching him. Man, Abner's a hell of a driver, and I know he didn't have the best qualifying, but when we came to that first set of pit stops, I saw he worked up to P2, so I knew the race was on for sure. And luckily I was able to go long on the first pit cycle, which let me go a little bit long on the second pit cycle, so I had a shorter run at the end. That's kind of what I was thinking. And I just figured because it was a shorter run, I was just gonna run hard every lap and see how we pan out. And luckily, it was 2 seconds to the good.
So that's 3 wins in a row now at 3 pretty different tracks. You've got to be feeling pretty confident about the rest of the championship coming up. 6 rounds to go. What's the confidence level like with everything else that's coming up on the calendar?
Yeah, I'd say it's pretty good. With everyone at the team's working well right now, and we're bringing good cars. I'm glad I got some good points early in the season here. We've got, the road course, which I know Abner's a beast at, and then the regular Daytona, which that can be a crapshoot. So a couple wild cards later in the season, so I'm glad I got points now.
Well, congrats on the trifecta over the last 3 weeks, and we'll see you in 1 week's time in Atlanta.
All right, thanks, y'all.
Matthew Long, 3 weeks in a row. Could he make it 4 weeks in a row next week? You'll have to tune back in to see us. But somebody who wants to change that, it's our second place finisher, Abner Acosta, with Terry.
Abner, I have a fan question and I have a race question. Which one do you want first?
Let's let's go with the fan question.
Why were you so slow at Daytona?
Daytona, I was. You mean
that came in from I won't tell you who it was, but his name rhymes with Michael Miaz.
Yeah, is it Michael? Yeah, I don't know. He's always trolling me. I'm gonna stop teaching him in oval.
Oh, that's tough. Yeah, that's what you get. Yeah,
he's been doing well, and I don't want to hint as to why that is, but
well, don't toot your horn too much, but you just couldn't pull it out tonight. You had a little bit of a shot there at the end, about 2 second gap when you come off a pit road. Could you not get the car to fire off on the initial start, or did you need a couple laps?
Yeah, it's just I would just fire off too late, and then the lap. I guess he got. I really made a lot of time at the end there on that last pit stop, so I thought I had it, but you know, getting by lap cars here, man, you lose so much. So I guess I didn't do well enough on that as well. And I thought my pace was maybe just a tiny bit quicker always at the end, but it was just too late. I should have possibly maybe short pitted on the first stop to kind of gain a little bit. I also lost a lot of time on my second stop where he went up to 8 seconds from like 2.5. So it was just, I don't know. Set would just fire off really late. And then lap cars would kind of like you have nowhere to go. You lose so much every lap car and just couldn't get to him. They did a really good job.
Well, next week being Atlanta, that's a tire track. What's in the cards for that 5 machine?
We'll see. We definitely, you know, this week was super busy with, you know, Daytona, and then for some reason I decided to do 3 leagues this season, and I thought I would be okay, but that's a lot of laps. It's a lot of practice, so we definitely need to work a little bit more on the sets. I just don't think we're fast enough on the starts. Late run, you know, I can always adjust whatever, but yeah, we just need to work a little bit on our sets. We'll see what happens. I don't think I'm a big fan of Atlanta, but I'm sure I'll do okay.
Yeah, appreciate your time, Abner, and talk to you next week.
Thank you. I want to thank, before I leave, my team, Private Label Team Hype, and James, Trent, Brandon, Ethica, and you guys over at RaceSpot and PRL for hosting a great league. We got no yellows. Super impressed. Thank you.
It's Abner
Acosta. P2 here at Darlington, but P1 as the tire wizard, potentially still. Matthew Long may have stolen that crown from him. We do have his teammate here as well, James O'Brien. Great race for Private Label Team Hype. P2 and P3. And that's the top 6 streak kept up for another week, James.
Yeah, I definitely wasn't expecting to here. This is my absolute worst track, so I went in saying top 10 and survive. That's all I wanted. And a podium, that's probably the best I've ever finished here, so I'll absolutely take it.
It's about to get even tougher to survive, though, because you know what's coming on Wednesday night. There's 3 nights of PRL competition on RaceSpot for James O'Brien. You're coming off a podium at Okayama in the IRO 4s.
I'm sad
third
that you
place
missed
tonight.
that. I qualified, and you weren't there. And you didn't
finally
see it.
decided to qualify. You finally shook things up. Maybe that was the key. But Monza Oval coming up on Wednesday night. Is the podium streak going to be able to keep up there?
I don't know. That'll just be for fun, honestly. Like, that's just silly. Wednesday night's kind of like my relaxation. I don't know if I really want to keep doing it. It's as much as I like doing it. I tend to be one of the leader guys here that build the sets for this car on Sunday, and we're struggling in our own sense. Obviously, second and third doesn't really look like struggling, but to me, that is. We really need to like buckle down, or I do. So I'm gonna just have fun with B car until probably the end of the season. But F4 is something I'm gonna continue to do. I really enjoy that car. It's starting to come together for me. I get to race with Terry, so it makes it a little better. You know, having him out there.
You don't ever see me.
Yeah, I do have to say you only see him when you're lapping him, but you know.
No, I watch the broadcast every time. So like, I think he'd be a useful in-race reporter. You guys can cut to him in the middle of the race and.
What are you doing back here? I'm slow. That's what I'm doing back here.
It's better. Hey, man, we need somebody to do it. So.
I appreciate it. You got to have a back marker in every league.
All right, well, congrats on third tonight, James. We'll see you at Monza in what is that? 2 days, 3 days now, however many days that is, and we'll see if you survive. We'll see if you keep the podium streak up.
Just want to say. Thanks to everybody here watching, and no cautions. Thanks to the team, Ethica, Private Label, Brandon, Trent, Abner. That was definitely the hardest race I've ever done on 12 years of this service. I am drenched in sweat and really sore, and really didn't want to slip away third and have Josh Daniels get it as much as he probably was going to get it the next lap. So, thank you.
James O'Brien looking for a towel. Hopefully he can dry off here in the next couple of minutes. Got 2 more drivers to quickly talk to here. Brett Punkari has been waiting around for us. Best result of the season in P7, representing that Peugeot. How about Darlington? Did you expect P7 tonight?
To be honest, every time I come here in a league race capacity, something bites me and I have issues or struggle or have a DNF. It kind of happened again tonight. I wanted to go real long, like 60 laps on tires, but I blew up in my face and I bounced off the wall a few times and slipped from my stall, and then I got really frustrated at myself and I just had some grit in my teeth and I clawed back to where I started. But maybe if I didn't have those issues, maybe a top 5 would have been in the cards, but I think I'll take this 7th, be my second consecutive top 10, and just move on, because I've had a lot worse luck here at Darlington. Even though this is one of my, every time I run an official session, I do well. Every time I run a league race, something blows up in my face.
Do have one more quick question. The Sonic the Hedgehogs are behind you this week, but last week there were some sports jerseys. We didn't determine what sport they were. I was thinking rugby, cricket. What were they?
It's curling.
Oh, okay, that's way better.
The shirt I was wearing, and then the one that said McCarville, Northern Ontario, that is the Scotties Tournament of Hearts jerseys for Northern Ontario. Ontario is separated into two kind of provinces, Northern and Southern Ontario, for the Scotties Tournament of Hearts and Briar, and there are some curling jerseys from back from the Grand Slam scene. So that's what those jerseys were. And you're gonna have to go talk to your fellow PRL driver Austin Hunter at the Curling Club of Houston. We'll have a PRL curling team before we know it. Yeah, I hope someday I can find some Daisy shirts or something like that. Not counting the costume, of course. One day. But congratulations on the second top 10 in a row, and we'll see you at Atlanta next week. All right, thanks. Brett Punkari, P7 tonight, and one more driver to talk to right behind him on track, Richard Regan Jr. You know what I'm going to ask real quick. What happened with Clayton Ham?
I don't know. You have to ask him. He basically was going to give me the turn there, and then he wanted to race me, and then he wanted to wreck me. So it's not the first time this year that we have people running out over their heads, and they'll learn someday. It's a tough start to the season for you, but Atlanta coming up next week. Do you think that's going to be a promising place to turn this around? Yeah, for sure. We had some good speed tonight. Me and Matt and Taylor, we've been working hard together. They've been putting in a lot more time than I have, just because of my new training for my job. And me and Matt don't have the similar driving styles at all, and neither does me and Taylor. So we're starting to figure out what I like in the car. And if that incident ever happened, I definitely probably would have finished at least second. But yeah, we got that car rolling good on that first pit stop, and then it's just unfortunate that someone who's multiple laps down wants to kill me. And we'll see what shifts around at Hotlanta next week. Survived to the end of the race. We'll see you next week. Yep, got to give a shout out to Neonism. You need a paint, go to facebook.com/neonism. Tell them that the PRL sent you. JZ Photography, VR Cover, Sim Labs, RBM, Regenbogen Motorsports, Dirty South Racing, RaceSpotTV, awesome job on the spotter stand and adjustments tonight. Everybody at RaceSpot and you guys at PRL. Always the professional. Richard Regan Jr. got the list of sponsors, getting it all right. Finishes P8 tonight, but if he is correct, could see him en route for a potential win at Atlanta next week. But that is about it for us this week. Next week, we will be back at the Atlanta Motor Speedway, not the current Super Speedway edition of Atlanta. It is the Legacy Scan, the old Scan of Atlanta circa 2008. So an interesting track, lots of bumps, still an intermediate track, and a lot of tire saving going to have to go down. Can Matthew Long go 4 for 4? Can Richard Regan Jr. turn his season around? Could Trent Dinkle turn his season around? Anything can happen. So we hope you'll join us next Sunday night at Atlanta. And that is not the only night of PRL action on RaceSpotTV, though. There's the Cup Series on Sunday night. There's GR86s and GT4s on Mondays. There's a GT3 doubleheader on Tuesdays. There's the PRL NASCAR Xfinity Series and the NASCAR Truck Series on Wednesdays. And there's IRO4 racing and F3 racing on Thursdays. We hope you'll join us for any and all of those events. But for now, I've been Joey Tebbin. Terry Radford has been Terry Radford. Nicholas Hunter's been behind the scenes. Our producer has been Hugo Luis. Till we see you next time, so long.